The Discipline Code: How to Trick Your Brain into Discipline and Success. Published by Timeless Audiobook. Introduction. Discipline is not a personality trait, it is a code, and every code can be learned, installed, and executed. Success does not belong to the most talented, the most motivated, or even the most inspired. It belongs to the one who understands how to work with the brain instead of against it. Your mind is not broken, it is not weak, it is simply wired for comfort, safety, and immediate reward. When you try to force discipline through sheer willpower, you trigger resistance. When you understand the wiring, you gain control. The truth is simple: discipline feels hard because you have been using the wrong method. You have been trying to overpower instincts that were designed for survival, not achievement. But survival is not success, and comfort is not growth. What if discipline did not require constant effort? What if it became automatic? What if you could trick your brain into choosing progress over pleasure without feeling deprived? In this audiobook, we will break down the psychological mechanisms that drive your behavior, reveal how habits are formed and reinforced, and show you how to design systems that remove the need for daily motivation. You will learn how to lower resistance, reshape identity, eliminate negotiation, and build an internal structure that makes discipline your default setting. This is not about becoming extreme, it is about becoming strategic. It is about turning discipline from a struggle into a structure. By the end of this journey, you will not rely on willpower. You will rely on design. The code is simple. The method is practical. The results are powerful. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Understand the brain you're trying to control. Discipline begins with understanding, not forcing, not pushing, not punishing yourself. Understanding, because you cannot control what you do not comprehend. And the brain you are trying to command every morning, every evening, every time you promise to do better tomorrow, is not your enemy. It is simply doing its job. Your brain is wired for survival, not success. It prefers what is familiar. It prefers what is easy. It prefers what feels good right now. That preference is not weakness, it is biology. Thousands of years ago, conserving energy kept humans alive. Seeking immediate reward meant finding food, safety, connection. The brain still follows that ancient code. It scans for comfort. It avoids strain. It moves toward pleasure. So when you sit down to do difficult work, wake up early, exercise, or resist distraction, your brain interprets that as unnecessary effort. It whispers, later. It suggests, rest. It offers alternatives that feel better in the moment. And here is the mistake many people make. They interpret that resistance as laziness. They call themselves undisciplined. They feel guilty. But guilt does not rewire the brain. Shame does not build consistency. Awareness does. When you notice resistance, pause. Instead of saying, "Why am I like this?" ask a better question. What is my brain trying to protect me from? Usually the answer is discomfort, effort, uncertainty, possible failure. Your brain does not hate success. It simply hates risk. It hates unpredictability. It wants the known path, even if the known path leads nowhere. Once you see this clearly, something shifts. You stop taking resistance personally. You stop dramatizing it. You start observing it. And observation gives you power, because when you recognize that the voice urging comfort is just an ancient survival mechanism, you can respond calmly. You can say, "Thank you for the warning, but I choose growth." Discipline, then, is not about silencing your brain. It is about guiding it. You do not overpower instinct. You outsmart it. You reduce the threat. You make the task smaller. You create familiarity through repetition. You teach the brain that effort does not equal danger. Over time, what once felt uncomfortable becomes normal. What once felt forced becomes automatic. Understand this deeply. Resistance is predictable. It will appear before every meaningful action, before the workout, before the study session, before the hard conversation. It will show up again and again. That does not mean you are failing. It means you are human. The disciplined person is not someone who feels no resistance. The disciplined person expects it, recognizes it, and moves anyway, calmly, deliberately, without drama. So before you try to build stronger habits, build stronger awareness. Study your patterns. Notice when your energy dips. Notice what triggers distraction. Notice the excuses that repeat. This is not judgment. This is data. When you understand the brain you are trying to control, discipline stops feeling like a battle and starts feeling like strategy. And strategy always beats struggle. Chapter 2. Make starting too easy to avoid. Action does not begin with motivation. It begins with reducing friction. If discipline feels heavy, complicated, or overwhelming, your brain will delay it. Not because you are incapable, but because starting feels expensive. The brain constantly calculates effort. When the cost looks high, it hesitates. When the cost looks small, it moves. Think about the difference between deciding to get in shape and deciding to put on your shoes. One feels intimidating, the other feels simple. One demands energy, planning, discomfort. The other demands almost nothing, and yet putting on your shoes often leads to movement. Movement leads to momentum. Momentum leads to consistency. Discipline does not begin with intensity, it begins with initiation. Your first job is not to become powerful. It is to become frictionless. Make the starting point so small that your brain has no logical argument against it. If you want to read more, commit to 1 page. If you want to write, commit to 2 minutes. If you want to exercise, commit to 5 push-ups. The goal is not progress in the beginning. The goal is motion, because motion creates proof, and proof reshapes identity. Here is something important to understand. The hardest part of any task is the emotional barrier before it. The mind exaggerates difficulty before you begin. Once you are in motion, resistance drops. You have experienced this before. You delayed a task all day, only to realize it was not that bad once you started. That is the brain's anticipation bias. It protects you from imagined discomfort, not actual danger. So lower the barrier. Prepare the environment in advance. Lay out your clothes the night before. Open the document before you need to write. Keep the book on your desk, not on a shelf. Remove the number of steps between you and the action. Discipline grows where friction shrinks. There is power in making a rule that is almost impossible to fail. When your standard is small, consistency becomes achievable, and consistency is the true goal. Anyone can act intensely for a day. Few can act consistently for a year. By making starting easy, you protect long-term momentum. You avoid burnout. You avoid the emotional crash that follows unrealistic goals. Your brain loves completion, even small completion. Finishing 2 minutes of focused work feels good. It creates a subtle sense of progress. That feeling releases a small reward in your brain. Over time, those small rewards reinforce the behavior. What once required effort begins to feel natural. Not because the task changed, but because your brain learned that starting is safe. You are not lowering standards, you are lowering resistance. There is a difference. Small actions, repeated daily, compound into large results. But large goals, attempted without strategy, collapse under their own weight. Discipline is not built through heroic effort, it is built through intelligent beginnings. When you feel stuck, do not ask, "How can I finish this?" Ask, "How can I start this in the easiest possible way?" That question changes everything. Because starting creates clarity, starting creates energy. Starting builds confidence, waiting builds doubt. And here is the deeper truth. The easier you make starting, the less you rely on mood. You remove the need to feel inspired. You remove the need to feel ready. You act first, and feeling follows. Action generates motivation far more reliably than motivation generates action. So shrink the task, break it down again, and then break it down once more, until it feels almost too simple. Then do it anyway. Do it daily. Do it even when you do not feel like it. Especially when you do not feel like it. Because every time you begin despite resistance, you train your brain to trust you. Discipline is not about forcing yourself through massive effort. It is about designing beginnings that are too easy to refuse. When starting becomes automatic, progress becomes inevitable, and once progress becomes visible, belief strengthens, and when belief strengthens, discipline no longer feels like effort. It feels like identity. Make it easy to begin, the rest will follow. Chapter 3. Design your environment for discipline. Willpower is unreliable, environment is predictable. If you depend on strength alone, you will eventually lose, not because you are weak, but because decision fatigue is real. Every choice you make throughout the day drains a small amount of mental energy. By the time you need discipline most, your reserves are low. That is why environment matters more than intention. Intention is a thought, environment is a force. Look around you. Your room, your desk, your phone, your schedule, they are not neutral. They are influencing you right now. A phone within reach invites distraction. Snacks on the counter invite impulse. A cluttered desk invites avoidance. On the other hand, a prepared workspace invites focus. A visible book invites reading. Running shoes by the door invite movement. Your surroundings are constantly suggesting behavior. The question is simple: what are they suggesting? Discipline becomes easier when the right action is obvious and the wrong action is inconvenient. Notice the word inconvenient. You do not need to eliminate temptation entirely. You only need to increase the effort required to access it. Move distracting apps off your home screen. Keep junk food out of sight. Turn off unnecessary notifications. Log out of accounts that waste your time. Each small barrier gives you a moment to think, and in that moment, awareness grows. You are not trying to fight temptation with emotion. You are trying to outsmart it with design. A disciplined person does not rely on constant self-control. They rely on structure. They reduce exposure to distraction. They simplify choices. They prepare in advance. They remove what weakens them and highlight what strengthens them. Think of environment as silent coaching. If your space is chaotic, your mind follows. If your space is organized, your behavior aligns. This is not about perfection. It is about clarity. When you sit down to work, everything you need should be ready. When you wake up, the first visible cues should support your goals. When you want to relax, relaxation should not turn into endless scrolling because your device is engineered to capture attention. And that is another truth you must accept. Many systems around you are designed to steal focus. Social media platforms are engineered for addiction. Entertainment is optimized for endless consumption. You are not competing against laziness. You are competing against sophisticated design. So you must respond with design of your own. Prepare tomorrow tonight. That single habit can transform consistency. Lay out your tools. Write down the first task you will complete. Remove obstacles before they appear. When morning comes, you eliminate negotiation. You move directly into action. The less thinking required in the moment, the stronger your discipline becomes. Environment also includes people. The conversations you hear, the standards you observe, the energy around you, all of it shapes behavior. If you spend time with those who value growth, discipline feels normal. If you surround yourself with constant distraction, discipline feels extreme. Choose carefully. Influence is powerful, even when subtle. Understand this clearly. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems, and your environment is the foundation of those systems. When discipline feels difficult, do not immediately question your character. Question your design. Ask yourself, is my environment supporting the person I want to become? Small adjustments compound. A cleaner desk, a scheduled focus block, a phone placed in another room, a notebook open and ready. These are simple actions. But simple actions repeated daily shape identity. They signal to your brain that this is who you are now, a person who prepares, a person who structures, a person who does not leave success to chance. Design your space with intention. Make good behavior easy and bad behavior harder. Reduce friction for what matters. Increase friction for what does not. When your environment aligns with your goals, discipline stops feeling like a fight. It becomes the natural response. And when the right action becomes the easiest action, consistency becomes inevitable. Chapter 4. Reward the process, not the prize. Results are seductive. The promotion, the money, the transformation, the recognition, they shine in your imagination. They promise relief. They promise validation. They promise arrival. But here is the problem. Results are delayed, and your brain prefers immediate reward. When you attach all your satisfaction to a distant outcome, discipline begins to feel like deprivation. You work hard now for something that may come later. The brain resists that bargain. If you want consistency, you must shift the reward. You must teach your brain to enjoy the process itself, not tolerate it, not endure it. Enjoy it. This is not about pretending hard work is easy. It is about redefining what feels good. Instead of waiting to feel proud only when you achieve the goal, learn to feel proud when you show up. Instead of celebrating only the finished product, celebrate the completed session, the workout, the focused hour, the disciplined decision. When the action becomes the win, discipline becomes sustainable. Your brain releases motivation when it senses progress, even small progress. That is why checking a box feels satisfying. That is why finishing a short task builds momentum. You are wired to respond to completion. Use that wiring wisely. Track your consistency. Mark your calendar. Keep a visible record of effort. Make progress tangible. Understand this clearly. When the process feels rewarding, the outcome becomes a bonus. But when only the outcome feels rewarding, the process becomes a burden. And burdens are eventually abandoned. Shift your language. Instead of saying, I have to work, say, I get to train. Instead of thinking, this is exhausting, think, this is growth. Language shapes perception. Perception shapes emotion. Emotion influences action. By reframing effort as investment rather than sacrifice, you begin to attach pride to discipline itself. There is also power in immediate, healthy rewards. After completing a deep work session, allow yourself a short walk, a cup of coffee, a moment of rest without guilt. Pair discipline with small positive experiences. Over time, your brain begins associating effort with satisfaction rather than strain. But be careful. Do not reward discipline with the very behavior you are trying to escape. Do not celebrate a focused day with hours of distraction. Align your rewards with your identity. Choose reinforcement that strengthens you, not weakens you. The deeper transformation happens when your self-respect becomes the reward. When you keep a promise to yourself, notice the feeling, that quiet strength, that internal stability, that growing confidence. That is not loud, it is not dramatic, but it is powerful, and it compounds. Every disciplined action becomes a vote for the person you are becoming. When you focus only on the prize, progress feels slow. When you focus on the process, progress feels daily. And daily progress sustains motivation far longer than distant dreams. Ask yourself a simple question. Can I find meaning in the repetition? Can I appreciate the structure? Can I value the discipline itself? Because success is rarely built in dramatic moments. It is built in ordinary ones, repeated, quietly, consistently. If you train your mind to see beauty in the routine, power in the repetition, and dignity in the effort, discipline stops feeling like punishment. It becomes purpose. Reward the showing up. Reward the consistency. Reward the effort. When the process becomes satisfying, you no longer chase motivation, you create it. And when discipline feels good in the present, success becomes inevitable in the future. Chapter 5. Build identity before results. Behavior follows identity, not the other way around. You do not wake up one day disciplined and then decide who you are. You decide who you are, and then your behavior begins to align with that decision. This is where many people struggle. They chase results while holding on to an old self-image. They want the habits of a disciplined person, but they still see themselves as inconsistent. And the brain always acts in harmony with identity. If deep down you believe, "I am not organized," you will act in ways that confirm it. If you believe, "I have no self-control," your actions will match that belief. Identity is powerful. It shapes perception. It filters choices. It influences effort. That is why building discipline begins with rewriting the story you tell about yourself. This is not about empty affirmations. It is about evidence-based identity. Instead of declaring, "I am extremely disciplined," begin with something believable. Say, "I am becoming more disciplined each day." That small shift matters. It leaves room for growth while pointing your mind in a new direction. Every action you take is a vote. When you wake up on time, that is a vote for being reliable. When you complete a task you promised to do, that is a vote for being consistent. When you resist distraction, that is a vote for being focused. One vote does not define you, but repeated votes build identity, and identity becomes automatic behavior. Here is the secret. Act like the disciplined version of yourself before you feel like that person. Ask a simple question throughout your day. What would a disciplined person do right now? Not a perfect person, not an extreme person, a disciplined one. Then choose that action, even if it is small, especially if it is small. The brain seeks coherence. It wants your behavior and your self-image to match. If you repeatedly act with discipline, your mind begins updating its identity file. It starts saying, "This is who we are now." And once that shift happens, consistency becomes easier. You are no longer forcing actions that feel unnatural. You are expressing who you believe yourself to be. Results are external. Identity is internal. If you focus only on results, motivation rises and falls. If you focus on identity, discipline stabilizes. Because identity does not depend on a single outcome. You can fail a task and still be disciplined. You can make a mistake and still maintain self-respect. Identity anchors you when results fluctuate. Think long-term. Instead of chasing a short-term achievement, aim to become the kind of person who naturally produces that achievement. Instead of trying to write one great book, become a writer. Instead of trying to get in shape once, become someone who trains consistently. The shift is subtle, but powerful. One is outcome-driven. The other is character-driven. Your brain protects identity fiercely. It resists actions that contradict how you see yourself. Use that principle wisely. If you install a disciplined identity, your brain will begin defending it. Skipping a commitment will feel uncomfortable because it clashes with who you believe you are. That internal discomfort becomes guidance rather than guilt. Start today. Choose a single identity statement that aligns with the life you want. Repeat it. Prove it with action. Reinforce it daily. Do not wait for massive results. Look for small confirmations. They are enough. When identity shifts, effort decreases. Discipline stops feeling like something you do and starts feeling like someone you are. And once it becomes who you are, success is no longer something you chase. It becomes something you express. Chapter 6. Turn discipline into a system. Goals are exciting. Systems are effective. A goal gives you direction, but a system gives you structure. Without structure, discipline depends on mood, and mood is unpredictable. If you want discipline to last, you must remove it from the emotional cycle and place it inside a repeatable framework. A system is simply a set of actions you perform consistently, regardless of how you feel. It reduces thinking. It reduces negotiation. It reduces the daily question of should I. When something becomes part of your system, the question changes from do I feel like doing this to this is what I do. That shift is powerful. Imagine waking up and not debating whether to check your phone, exercise, or begin your most important task. Imagine having a predetermined sequence. Wake up, drink water, move your body, review your priorities, begin focused work. No drama, no debate, just execution. That is the power of a system. Discipline becomes lighter when decisions are made in advance. Every time you postpone a decision to the moment of action, you invite resistance. But when the decision has already been made, clearly and calmly, action requires less energy. You are not deciding. You are following a plan. Start small. Create anchor habits. An anchor habit is a behavior that signals the beginning of something important. It grounds your day. It could be making your bed. It could be sitting at your desk at a fixed time. It could be writing one sentence before anything else. The action itself is not magical. The consistency is. Systems also protect you from extremes. When you rely on motivation, you either overwork or underperform. A system keeps you steady. It prevents burnout because it values repetition over intensity. It understands that progress is built through rhythm, not bursts. You do not need a complex plan. In fact, complexity weakens discipline. The simpler the system, the stronger it becomes. Choose a fixed time for important tasks. Decide in advance how long you will work. Define what completion looks like. Remove ambiguity. Ambiguity invites avoidance. There is freedom inside structure. That may sound contradictory, but it is true. When your core habits are automated, your mental energy is freed for creativity, strategy, and growth. You are not constantly fighting yourself. You are moving within a framework you trust. Trust is the key. Each time you follow your system, you strengthen self-trust. Each time you ignore it, you weaken it. Over time, this trust becomes your foundation. You no longer wonder if you will act. You know you will. And here is something important. Systems are flexible, but they are not optional. Life will interrupt you. Unexpected events will happen. You adjust the timing, perhaps the intensity, but you do not abandon the structure entirely. Even on difficult days, you maintain the minimum version of your system. This preserves momentum. Think of discipline not as something you perform heroically, but as something you practice routinely. A system transforms discipline from effort into habit. It turns scattered actions into organized progress. It removes the emotional roller coaster and replaces it with stability. Ask yourself, what is the simplest system I can follow daily? Not perfectly, not dramatically, just consistently. Build it, follow it, refine it over time, but protect it. When discipline lives inside a system, success stops being accidental. It becomes predictable, and predictability is power. Chapter 7. Remove choice from the equation. Every day you negotiate with yourself more than you realize. You negotiate about waking up. You negotiate about starting work. You negotiate about exercising, eating well, focusing, resting, and every negotiation drains energy. The more choices you allow in the moment, the more opportunities you create for weakness. Choice feels like freedom, but too much choice creates inconsistency. When discipline depends on daily decisions, it becomes fragile, because some days you will feel strong, other days you will feel tired, distracted, emotional. If you allow your behavior to be decided in the moment, your mood will win more often than your goals. This is why disciplined people decide once. They do not decide every day. When you pre-decide your standards, you eliminate negotiation. Instead of asking, "Should I work out today?" the answer is already determined. You work out on these days, at this time, for this duration. It is not dramatic. It is not emotional. It is simply scheduled. The brain looks for the easiest available option. If there is room to debate, it will suggest comfort. If the rule is firm, the debate ends quickly. That mental clarity conserves energy, and conserved energy strengthens consistency. Think about small rules. No phone before 9 a.m. No sugar on weekdays. Work begins at 8 a.m. sharp. These are not restrictions. They are boundaries. Boundaries protect focus. Boundaries protect energy. Boundaries protect long-term progress. When you remove choice, you also remove guilt. There is no internal argument. There is no emotional tug-of-war. There is only execution. And execution builds confidence. Confidence builds identity. Some people fear strict rules because they believe it limits spontaneity. But discipline is not about eliminating joy. It is about eliminating chaos. You can enjoy freedom more deeply when your foundation is stable. A strong structure allows flexible moments. Without structure, flexibility becomes distraction. Notice how many times you say, "I'll see how I feel." That sentence weakens discipline. Feeling changes constantly. Standards should not. Replace that sentence with something stronger. This is what I do. Simple, direct, final. There is also power in pre-commitment. Tell someone your plan. Sign up for the class. Schedule the meeting. Make it harder to back out. When consequences are external, resistance loses strength. You shift from relying on motivation to relying on accountability. Understand this clearly. You are not removing freedom. You are removing unnecessary decisions, and unnecessary decisions are the birthplace of procrastination. The fewer decisions you leave to chance, the more consistent your behavior becomes. This does not mean you become rigid or extreme. It means you become clear. Clear about your priorities. Clear about your standards. Clarity reduces friction. Clarity strengthens action. Imagine a version of yourself who does not debate basic habits, who does not wake up wondering what to do, who follows a predetermined path each morning. That version of you moves faster, thinks less about starting, wastes less energy, and achieves more over time. Remove daily negotiation. Decide once. Follow through repeatedly. When choice is reduced, discipline rises. And when discipline rises, success stops depending on how you feel and starts depending on what you decided. Chapter 8. Train the muscle of patience. Discipline is often a battle between now and later. Now wants comfort. Later wants growth. Now wants pleasure. Later wants progress. The ability to choose later over now is not a personality trait. It is a trained skill. And like any skill, it strengthens with repetition. Patience is not passive. It is active restraint. It is the quiet decision to delay gratification in exchange for something greater. Your brain, however, is wired for immediacy. It lights up at instant rewards, notifications, sugar, entertainment, praise. These small bursts of pleasure condition you to expect quick satisfaction. And when discipline asks you to wait, to work without immediate results, resistance appears. But resistance is not a signal to stop. It is a signal that training is happening. Think of patience as a muscle. The first time you delay a craving, it feels uncomfortable. The second time, slightly less. Over time, the discomfort weakens. What once felt urgent begins to feel optional. You realize that impulses are temporary. They rise, peak, and fade. Most urges last only minutes. If you can outlast the peak, you regain control. Start small. When you feel the urge to check your phone, wait 10 minutes. When you want to quit a task, commit to 5 more minutes. When you crave something impulsive, pause and breathe. This pause is powerful. It interrupts automatic behavior. It creates space between stimulus and response. And in that space, discipline grows. Patience also requires perspective. Short-term thinking magnifies discomfort. Long-term thinking minimizes it. When you zoom out and see the bigger picture, the months, the years, today's effort feels lighter. You are not just resisting a temptation, you are investing in a future version of yourself. There is strength in saying, not now, not never, just not now. This phrase reduces internal conflict. It acknowledges desire without surrendering to it. It keeps control in your hands. The world rewards immediacy, fast results, quick wins, overnight success, but real growth compounds slowly, quietly, often invisibly. Patience allows you to stay committed even when progress is subtle. It keeps you moving when external validation is absent. Understand this clearly. Impatience creates cycles. You work intensely, expect rapid results, see little change, and quit. Patience creates stability. You work steadily, expect gradual progress, see small improvements, and continue. Over time, small improvements multiply. Training patience also builds emotional resilience. When you learn to tolerate discomfort without reacting impulsively, you gain control over more than habits. You gain control over anger, frustration, distraction. You become less reactive and more deliberate. Ask yourself in difficult moments, will this choice matter next week, next year? Often, the answer is yes. That awareness strengthens resolve. You begin valuing long-term identity over short-term comfort. Remember, patience does not mean waiting without action. It means acting consistently, without demanding immediate reward. It means trusting the process, even when results are not yet visible. Every time you delay gratification, you send a message to your brain. I am in control. I can wait. I choose growth over impulse. That message, repeated often, reshapes your default response. Train the muscle of patience daily, in small moments, in quiet decisions. Because the person who can wait strategically can build strategically, and the person who builds strategically will eventually surpass the one who chases immediate pleasure. Patience is power, and power grows stronger each time you choose later over now. Chapter 9. Use discomfort as fuel. Growth has a texture. It rarely feels smooth. It feels tight. It feels demanding. It feels uncomfortable, and most people spend their lives trying to avoid that feeling. They interpret discomfort as a warning sign, as a signal that something is wrong. But in the pursuit of discipline, discomfort is not the enemy. It is the indicator. Your brain is wired to move away from discomfort. That wiring once kept you safe. Pain meant danger. Struggle meant risk. But in the modern world, the discomfort you feel when working hard, exercising, focusing, or learning something new is not life-threatening. It is growth-threatening only if you retreat from it. Discomfort is information. It tells you that you are stretching beyond your current limits. It tells you that you are stepping outside familiarity. And familiarity is comfortable, even when it keeps you stuck. The disciplined person reframes discomfort. Instead of saying, "This feels bad, I should stop," they say, "This feels hard, I must be expanding." That shift changes everything. The sensation remains the same, but the meaning transforms. Think about physical training. Muscles strengthen under tension. Without resistance, there is no adaptation. The same principle applies to discipline. Without mental strain, there is no growth in focus. Without emotional challenge, there is no resilience. Without effort, there is no expansion. The key is controlled discomfort. You are not punishing yourself. You are deliberately choosing challenges that stretch you without breaking you. You wake up earlier than comfortable. You work a little longer than convenient. You push through the final minutes when quitting feels tempting. These moments build capacity. When discomfort appears, do not dramatize it. Observe it. Say to yourself, "This is the feeling of progress." Breathe. Stay present. Continue. You will notice something powerful. Discomfort often fades faster than expected when you stop resisting it. Avoidance strengthens fear. Exposure weakens it. The first time you push through discomfort, it feels intense. The second time, slightly less. Over time, what once felt overwhelming becomes manageable. Your threshold expands. There is also pride in enduring discomfort intentionally. Not reckless suffering, but purposeful effort. That pride builds self-respect, and self-respect reinforces discipline. Each time you stay in the discomfort a little longer, you prove to yourself that you are stronger than impulse. Many people wait to feel ready. They wait for comfort before acting. But comfort rarely precedes growth. It follows it. If you wait until something feels easy, you will remain within your current limits. Discipline requires stepping beyond them. Ask yourself in difficult moments, is this discomfort harmful, or is it growth? Most of the time, it is growth. And growth is temporary. The struggle of a focused hour ends. The effort of a workout ends. The tension of learning something new ends. But the strength you build remains. There is a difference between pain and progress. Learn to distinguish them. Pain that injures should be avoided. Discomfort that strengthens should be embraced. When you stop fearing discomfort, you unlock a new level of freedom. You are no longer controlled by the need for ease. You become willing to face challenge, and willingness is powerful. Use discomfort as a signal, as fuel, as proof that you are moving forward, because the path of least resistance leads to stagnation. The path of chosen resistance leads to transformation. Lean into the tension. Stay steady in the effort. Let discomfort refine you, instead of defining you. And over time, what once felt unbearable will feel like your training ground. Chapter 10. Act beyond your emotions. Emotions are powerful. They rise quickly. They influence perception. They color your thinking. But they are not commands. They are signals, and discipline begins the moment you stop treating emotions as instructions. You will not always feel motivated. You will not always feel confident. You will not always feel focused, strong, or ready. If you wait for the right emotional state before taking action, you surrender control of your life to something unstable. Feelings change by the hour. Discipline requires something steadier. Understand this clearly. You are not your emotions. You experience them. That distinction is critical. When you say, "I am tired," it feels permanent. When you say, "I feel tired," it becomes temporary. One defines you. The other describes a passing state. The disciplined person separates feeling from action. They may feel unmotivated and still begin. They may feel anxious and still move forward. They may feel distracted and still focus for a defined period. They do not deny emotions. They acknowledge them without obeying them. There is freedom in this separation. When you realize that action does not require emotional alignment, you stop waiting. You stop postponing. You act first, and emotion often follows. Think about how often motivation appears after you start, not before. You resist a task all morning, finally begin, and within minutes, the resistance softens. Clarity increases. Energy stabilizes. That is because action generates momentum. Momentum generates engagement. Engagement generates motivation. If you reverse the order and wait for motivation first, you delay progress. Discipline flips the sequence. Action comes first. Emotion adjusts later. This does not mean becoming robotic or suppressing feelings. It means leading yourself instead of being led. When anger appears, you pause instead of reacting. When boredom appears, you continue instead of escaping. When doubt appears, you act anyway. Emotions are often loud at the beginning of effort. The mind dramatizes difficulty. It predicts discomfort. But those emotional waves usually settle once movement begins. The key is not eliminating the wave. The key is not being knocked over by it. Create rules that operate independent of mood. I work for 1 hour, no matter how I feel. I exercise on these days regardless of energy. I finish what I start. These statements build emotional independence. You become someone who acts based on principle, not impulse. Ask yourself a simple question in moments of hesitation. If I were already disciplined, what would I do right now? Then do that. Not because you feel like it, but because it aligns with who you are becoming. Emotional control is not about constant positivity. It is about stability. It is about recognizing that discomfort, frustration and doubt are temporary visitors. They do not get to redesign your schedule. They do not get to rewrite your standards. Over time, acting beyond emotion builds confidence. You begin trusting yourself. You realize that a bad mood does not derail your progress. You see that tiredness does not define your capability. You experience proof that you can move forward under imperfect conditions. That proof strengthens identity, and identity strengthens discipline. When you stop asking, "Do I feel like it?" and start asking, "What needs to be done?" you step into maturity. You move from reactive to intentional. You become less dramatic and more decisive. Emotions will always exist. They are part of being human, but they do not have to be the driver. You can sit in the driver's seat, calmly, steadily, intentionally. Act beyond your emotions. Let principle guide behavior, and watch how your consistency transforms when mood no longer controls momentum. Chapter 11. Measure what you want to master. What gets measured improves. What gets ignored drifts. Discipline thrives on clarity, and clarity comes from tracking. When you rely only on memory or emotion to evaluate your progress, you distort reality. Some days feel productive when they were not. Other days feel unproductive when they were solid. Measurement removes illusion. It replaces feeling with fact. Your brain responds powerfully to visible progress. When you can see a streak, a checklist, a number increasing, something shifts internally. Effort becomes tangible. Consistency becomes visible, and visible progress fuels motivation in a way vague ambition never can. Without measurement, discipline feels abstract. With measurement, it becomes concrete. Start simple. Track the habits that matter most, not 10, not 20. 1 or 2 core behaviors. Did you complete your focused work session? Did you exercise? Did you wake up at the planned time? Mark it down. Every single day, no drama, just record it. There is something deeply satisfying about seeing a chain of completed days. You do not want to break the chain. That simple visual becomes accountability, and accountability strengthens consistency. Measurement also exposes patterns. You begin noticing which days you struggle, which environments reduce performance, which habits trigger others. This awareness gives you control. Instead of guessing why discipline feels difficult, you see the data. Data removes excuses. Many people avoid tracking because they fear confronting inconsistency. But avoidance does not solve inconsistency. It hides it, and what is hidden cannot be improved. When you track honestly, you remove shame and replace it with information. Information empowers adjustment. Tracking is not about perfection. It is about awareness. If you miss a day, record it. Do not erase it. Do not pretend it did not happen. The goal is not a flawless record. The goal is faster recovery. When you measure daily, one missed action stands out quickly. You correct course before small lapses become habits. Measurement also reinforces identity. Each recorded action becomes proof. Proof that you are disciplined, proof that you are consistent, proof that you follow through. Over time, that record builds confidence. Confidence reduces hesitation, and reduced hesitation increases action. Be specific about what you measure. Work hard is vague. Complete 60 minutes of focused work is clear. Clarity removes ambiguity. Ambiguity weakens discipline. There is another benefit to measurement. It shifts your focus to inputs, not just outcomes. Instead of obsessing over results you cannot fully control, you concentrate on actions you can control. You may not control when success arrives. It ensues, but you control whether you show up today. When you measure inputs consistently, results eventually follow. And when results fluctuate, your measurement keeps you grounded. You know you are doing the work. You see the evidence. Keep your tracking system visible. A notebook on your desk, a chart on your wall, a simple spreadsheet. Make progress undeniable. Make discipline observable. Over time, measurement becomes motivating in itself. You look forward to marking the completion. You look forward to protecting your streak. The act of tracking transforms from obligation into reinforcement. Discipline is not about intensity, it is about repetition. Measurement highlights repetition. It makes the invisible visible. And when progress becomes visible, momentum becomes sustainable. Measure what you want to master. Track the actions that define your future. Let the data guide you. Let the record strengthen you. Because when you see proof of your consistency, doubt loses its voice. And when doubt weakens, discipline grows stronger. Chapter 12. Recover faster than you fail. Failure is not the opposite of discipline. Quitting is. You will miss days. You will break routines. You will fall short of your standards. That is not a prediction of weakness. It is a reality of being human. The difference between those who build lasting discipline and those who remain inconsistent is not perfection. It is recovery speed. The undisciplined person turns one mistake into a pattern. The disciplined person turns one mistake into a lesson. When you miss a workout, skip a session, or give in to distraction, your mind may attempt to magnify the moment. It may say, "You see, this is who you are." That voice is dangerous, not because it is loud, but because it feels convincing. If you accept that narrative, one lapse becomes identity, and identity drives behavior. Instead, respond differently. Say, "I slipped. That's all. No drama, no self-attack, no exaggeration." Then return immediately to the structure you built. Recovery begins the moment you refuse to turn error into excuse. Speed matters. The longer you wait to return to discipline, the harder it feels. Momentum works both ways. It strengthens consistency, but it also strengthens avoidance. Interrupt avoidance quickly. Even if your return is imperfect, make it immediate. There is a principle that protects discipline: never miss twice. One missed day can happen. Two begins a pattern. The second decision is more important than the first. When you recover quickly, you prove to yourself that discipline is your default, not your exception. Failure also offers information. Ask calmly, what led to this? Was it fatigue, poor planning, emotional stress, environment? Learn from it. Adjust your system. Strengthen your structure. Discipline improves through refinement, not self-punishment. Perfectionism is often disguised as ambition, but perfectionism makes failure unbearable. When standards are unrealistic, one mistake feels catastrophic. Sustainable discipline allows room for imperfection. It values long-term consistency over short-term flawlessness. Think long-term. Over a year, a few missed days are irrelevant. What matters is the overall pattern. If you show up most days, progress compounds. Do not sabotage months of effort because of one off day. Protect the bigger picture. There is strength in calm correction. Instead of emotional reaction, choose measured response. Return to your anchor habits. Rebuild momentum gradually if needed. A small disciplined action today restores direction. Recovery also builds resilience. Each time you return after failure, you strengthen self-trust. You prove that mistakes do not control you. You demonstrate that discipline is stronger than temporary weakness. Many people abandon their goals not because they failed, but because they felt ashamed of failing. Remove shame from the process. Replace it with responsibility. Responsibility says, I made a mistake, I will correct it. That mindset preserves momentum. You are not defined by isolated decisions. You are defined by repeated behavior. Make recovery part of your system. Expect setbacks. Plan for them. Decide in advance that when you fall short, you will respond with action, not emotion. The disciplined life is not smooth. It is steady. Steady does not mean flawless. It means persistent. When you recover faster than you fail, failure loses its power. It becomes temporary. It becomes instructional. It becomes part of growth. Do not aim to avoid every mistake. Aim to shorten the distance between mistake and correction. That distance determines your trajectory. Fall, learn, adjust. Continue. Discipline is not proven when everything goes right. It is proven in how quickly you return when things go wrong. Chapter 13. Protect your energy relentlessly. Discipline is not only about time, it is about energy. You can have a perfectly structured schedule, clear goals, and strong intentions. But if your energy is depleted, execution suffers. Energy is the fuel behind focus, patience, and resilience. Without it, even simple tasks feel heavy. Many people try to solve discipline problems with more pressure. They push harder. They demand more from themselves. But discipline does not grow from exhaustion. It grows from sustainable strength. Your energy has limits. Mental energy declines with decision-making. Emotional energy declines with stress. Physical energy declines with neglect. If you ignore these realities, you begin each day already at a disadvantage. Start with the basics. Sleep is not optional. It is foundational. A tired brain seeks shortcuts. It craves easy dopamine. It avoids effort. Protecting sleep is not laziness. It is strategic discipline. When you are rested, focus sharpens, patience increases, impulse control strengthens, nutrition matters, movement matters, hydration matters. These are not fitness slogans. They are discipline multipliers. When your body functions well, your mind follows. Energy is also affected by attention. Every notification, every scroll, every interruption drains small amounts of cognitive power. Digital noise fragments focus. It trains your brain to expect constant stimulation. Over time, deep work feels uncomfortable because your attention span weakens. Create focus blocks. Defined periods where distractions are removed completely. Phone in another room. Notifications off. Single task. Even 30 minutes of uninterrupted focus can feel transformative. Protect those blocks fiercely. They are not negotiable. Notice which activities energize you and which drain you. Some conversations inspire clarity. Others exhaust you. Some habits restore calm. Others create agitation. Discipline includes choosing where your energy goes. Boundaries protect energy. Saying no is not selfish. It is selective. You cannot commit to every request and still expect peak performance. Protect your time. Protect your mental space. Not everything deserves your attention. There is also a rhythm to energy. You have peak hours. Identify them. Use them for your most demanding tasks. Do not waste your strongest hours on low-value activities. Discipline is not only about working hard, it is about working intelligently. Breaks are not weakness, they are maintenance. Short, intentional pauses restore clarity. Step away from the screen. Walk, breathe, reset. When you return, you bring renewed focus. Avoid the trap of constant stimulation. Silence is powerful. Reflection restores direction. Without moments of stillness, you drift into reactive living. Discipline requires awareness. Awareness requires space. Stress management is another form of energy protection. Chronic stress narrows thinking. It increases impulsivity. It reduces patience. Find practices that regulate you. Journaling, movement, quiet reflection. Consistency here strengthens stability. Remember this. Burnout does not prove commitment. It proves imbalance. Sustainable discipline honors recovery as much as effort. You cannot operate at maximum intensity indefinitely. Build cycles of push and rest. Ask yourself daily, where is my energy going? If it is scattered across distractions, your discipline weakens. If it is directed toward priorities, your discipline strengthens. Protecting energy is an act of respect. Respect for your goals, respect for your potential, respect for your limits. When your energy is stable, discipline feels lighter, focus becomes sharper, patience becomes easier, recovery becomes faster. Guard your fuel. Structure your day around your strongest hours. Remove unnecessary drains, and treat your energy as your greatest asset. Because without it, discipline struggles. With it, discipline thrives. Chapter 14. Raise your standards through association. No one builds discipline in isolation. You may execute alone, think alone, work alone, but your standards are shaped by what you see around you. The people in your life, the conversations you hear, the behaviors you observe, all of it quietly defines what feels normal. And what feels normal determines what you tolerate. If you surround yourself with people who constantly delay, complain, and settle, discipline begins to look extreme. But if you spend time around people who show up on time, honor commitments, and push themselves, discipline begins to look standard. Human beings adapt. We mirror. We calibrate our behavior based on our environment. This is not weakness, it is wiring. Association influences expectation. If the people closest to you treat mediocrity as acceptable, your internal standards slowly drop. If they treat excellence as baseline, your standards rise without force. You begin matching the room. That is why choosing your environment is not arrogance, it is strategy. You do not need to cut people off dramatically. You need awareness. Notice how you feel after certain interactions. Energized or drained, focused or distracted, accountable or excused. Energy does not lie. Patterns reveal influence. Raising your standards may require distance from habits that once felt comfortable. Growth often feels lonely before it feels rewarding. But loneliness in growth is temporary. Regret from stagnation lasts longer. Seek proximity to discipline. This does not mean finding perfect people. It means finding people who value effort, integrity, and consistency. People who follow through. People who do not glorify shortcuts. Even one disciplined influence can shift your perspective. Mentorship matters. Learning from those ahead of you accelerates growth. When you see what is possible, your internal ceiling lifts. Exposure expands belief. Belief expands action. And remember, influence is not limited to physical presence. Books, audiobooks, interviews, thoughtful conversations, these are associations too. What you listen to daily shapes how you think. What you read regularly shapes how you decide. Be intentional with your inputs. Replace noise with nourishment. Replace distraction with direction. If your mind is constantly filled with trivial content, discipline weakens. If your mind is fed with clarity and wisdom, discipline strengthens. There is also responsibility in association. You become part of someone else's environment. Your standards influence others. Your consistency raises the room. Discipline is contagious, so is complacency. Choose which one you spread. Do not underestimate subtle pressure. If everyone around you wakes up early, you will adjust. If everyone around you values preparation, you will prepare. Standards become invisible expectations. Ask yourself honestly, does my current environment challenge me or comfort me? Does it elevate my focus or dilute it? You do not need dramatic change. Sometimes one new influence is enough to shift direction. Raising standards does not mean becoming rigid or judgmental. It means refusing to lower yourself to fit in. It means honoring your goals even when others do not understand them. It means choosing growth over approval. You cannot consistently outperform your environment, but you can redesign it, gradually, intentionally, strategically. When you surround yourself with discipline, your own discipline strengthens. When you normalize excellence, mediocrity feels uncomfortable. Choose your associations wisely, because over time, you will become the average of what surrounds you. And if you want stronger discipline, surround yourself with stronger standards. Chapter 15. Let discipline shape your destiny. Destiny is not a dramatic moment. It is a pattern. It is the accumulation of small decisions repeated long enough to become irreversible. Discipline is the quiet force behind that pattern. It does not shout. It does not demand applause. It works in the background, shaping your future one ordinary day at a time. Every action you take casts a vote for the direction of your life. Wake up when you said you would. Vote for reliability. Complete the task you planned. Vote for consistency. Resist distraction. Vote for focus. These votes seem small in isolation, but stacked together over months and years, they build a trajectory that is difficult to stop. Many people wait for a breakthrough. They look for the big opportunity, the lucky break, the sudden transformation. But breakthroughs are usually the visible result of invisible discipline. What appears overnight was built quietly over time. When discipline becomes daily, success becomes predictable, not immediate, not effortless, but predictable. You can look at your habits and forecast your future. If your habits are strong, your future is strong. If your habits are scattered, your future will reflect that inconsistency. Discipline also builds something more valuable than achievement. It builds self-trust. When you consistently follow through, you begin believing yourself. Promises to yourself stop feeling fragile. They feel solid. That self-trust changes how you walk into rooms, how you make decisions, how you handle pressure. Destiny is shaped in ordinary moments. The choice to work when you would rather rest. The choice to prepare when you could procrastinate. The choice to stay steady when emotions fluctuate. These are not glamorous decisions, but they are powerful ones. There is a compounding effect to discipline. The first week feels small. The first month feels gradual. But over a year, over 5 years, the difference becomes dramatic. Skills sharpen. Confidence deepens. Opportunities increase. People begin noticing what you have quietly been building. Discipline simplifies life. It removes chaos. It reduces regret. It provides direction. You stop wondering what you should do. You know. You act. You refine. You continue. And here is the deeper truth. Discipline is freedom. It frees you from impulse. It frees you from constant negotiation. It frees you from living reactively. Structure creates stability. Stability creates choice. Choice creates power. Your destiny does not require perfection. It requires consistency. It requires showing up more often than not. It requires returning quickly when you slip. It requires protecting the systems you built. Look ahead 5 years. Imagine the version of you who honored daily discipline, who acted beyond emotion, who protected energy, who measured progress. That version of you is not a fantasy. It is a projection based on repeated action. Discipline will not always feel exciting, but it will always feel strengthening, and strength, built steadily, shapes destiny. Let discipline guide your decisions. Let it anchor your standards. Let it define your identity. Over time, you will not need motivation to move forward. Movement will be natural. Progress will be steady. Confidence will be earned. Destiny is not chosen once. It is shaped daily. And when daily discipline becomes who you are, the future stops being uncertain. It becomes constructed, deliberately, intentionally, one disciplined decision at a time. Conclusion. Discipline was never meant to be a battle of willpower. It was never meant to feel like constant struggle or emotional warfare. What you have seen throughout this audiobook is something far more powerful and far more sustainable. Discipline is design. It is structure. It is identity. It is a system installed deliberately and executed consistently. You now understand your brain. You know it seeks comfort, avoids risk, and chases immediate reward. But you also know that this wiring is not a life sentence. It is simply a mechanism, and mechanisms can be guided. You learn to make starting easier than avoiding. You learn to design your environment so the right action becomes the obvious one. You learn to reward the process, not just the prize. You built identity before chasing results. You stopped negotiating with yourself. You trained patience. You reframed discomfort. You separated emotion from action. You began measuring what matters. You learned to recover faster than you fail. You protected your energy. You raised your standards through association. And finally, you saw how daily discipline compounds into destiny. None of these principles require extreme talent. None of them demand superhuman strength. They require awareness, intention, repetition. The truth is simple. Success is rarely dramatic. It is quiet. It is structured. It is built in ordinary days when no one is watching. And the person who masters ordinary days eventually creates extraordinary outcomes. There will still be resistance. There will still be moments of doubt. That does not mean the code failed. It means you are human. But now you have something stronger than motivation. You have a system. You have structure. You have self-trust. Do not aim for perfection. Aim for consistency. Do not aim to feel ready. Aim to act anyway. Do not aim to eliminate discomfort. Aim to grow through it. The discipline code is not something you read once. It is something you practice daily. It lives in your decisions. It lives in your routines. It lives in how quickly you return when you fall short. Remember this: discipline is freedom. Freedom from impulse. Freedom from regret. Freedom from wasted potential. When your actions align with your standards, life becomes simpler, clearer, stronger. From this point forward, you do not need to ask whether you are disciplined. You need only to follow the structure you built. Show up, track it, adjust when necessary, continue. Your brain can be trained, your habits can be shaped, your identity can evolve, and your future can be constructed deliberately. The code is installed, now live it.